gnocchi means?
Dumpling.
Means dumpling. So it could be a variety of dumplings. We have semolina gnocchi on the menu. It could be made with bread. Ricotta cheese, right? So you can do a ricotta gnocchi. Gnudi, you guys ever hear of gnudi?
Yeah, what the ricotta ones are?
Yeah, it's a
instead of potato.
Yeah, it's ricotta. It's what it really means is naked, right? So it's a naked ravioli. So it's the inside ricotta spinach filling that you would put inside of a ravioli usually, and they can be baked or deep fried. So there's plenty, all different types of gnocchi, but the potato is a classic. Now what we did here is we pureed the potato while they're hot. It's important you do it while it's hot. It's like making mashed potato. If the potato's cold, they get gluey and lumpy, and it's not very good. So puree them while they're hot. Then we laid them out on this board here, okay? On the wood board, the wood's going to help absorb some of the moisture too, to keep it from sticking, and it's going to let the steam escape. All right, you pile it in a bowl, the steam's going to stay on the bottom, soggy potato, right? That's what you're trying to avoid. Now, I'm seasoning the gnocchi. I'm trying to get it all incorporated, and I laid it out, and I'm going to put all my ingredients in there like this, so I don't need to overmix, right? This way the salt's not on top. You don't really want to knead the dough. You want to just incorporate all the ingredients. If I need it, what do you think's going to happen?
Develop gluten.
Huh?
Yeah, develop gluten.
Develop the gluten, right? I'm going to have potato bread. This is nutmeg. So you can put herbs in here, different flavoring agents. I mean, pepper. I know the recipe calls for white, but I like to use the black. Also, there's no cheese in the recipe, but I like cheese. I've never heard it. Okay, egg yolks. What I do is 1 yolk for every pound of potato. Alright? So I have 10 pounds of potato that we started with. We baked them in the oven. 10 egg yolks.
Why don't you use whole eggs?
What's that?
Why don't you use whole eggs?
Oh, you could use whole eggs, but whole eggs, egg yolk, primarily moisture, right? You're going to be adding moisture to the dough. You want to be able to taste the potato without introducing extra moisture. Could you use whole eggs? Yeah, yolks are going to give you a richer, tastier product, right? You just really want it to bind, okay? 00 flour. Alright, the recipe calls for bread, I think, but I prefer to use a 00. It has less gluten inside. And how much flour? It's about a 3-to-1 ratio. So for every 3 pounds of potato, about a pound of flour. Generally speaking, okay, that includes dusting, sheet trays, the whole deal. Now, I just go by feel. Alright, there's no real exact science to this. You need to get your hands in there and feel the dough. If it's too sticky, you need to have more flour. Right? You don't want it to get too dry, and you don't want it to be too dense. You get a dense dumpling. I don't know if you guys have tried the gnocchi here, but generally they should melt in your mouth. They should be little light potato puffs of air, really, Yesterday, I don't know who was asked, Sam I think was asking me, what's the best way for service, how to handle it in gnocchi. For me, cooking them a la minute, right? Anything that could be cooked a la minute is always the way to go. If you can't pull that off for whatever reason, you don't have the manpower or the space, there's other ways you can handle it. One way is you can blanch them off, right? And when you blanch pasta, including in gnocchi, in my opinion, you let it air cool. You lay it out on a sheet tray and you oil it. Okay? Can you shock them? Yeah. What's going to happen if I shock the gnocchi or pasta?
Wash off flavor, wash off starch.
Flavor, starch, hot starch and cold liquid. What do you think's going to happen to that?
It's going to
Absorb it like a sponge too. Okay. If you blanch your gnocchi, you need to pretty much use them that day. Right. The next day they're going to be gluey. They don't really stay very well. You could fry them the next day. Great fries. You could fry them. Or something else I used to do. I used to freeze them. We'd make them twice a week. About 100 sheet trays. at a time, and we lay them out on the sheet tray, freeze them, and put them in pre-portioned bags. Keep them frozen. Go from the freezer to the water. They come out perfect every time. You guys know when the gnocchi's cooked?
Floats.
Yeah, when it floats. It pops up to the surface. It's done. All right? Done. You ever hear of a Parisian gnocchi? Anybody? Parisian? What is it, Lauren?
Isn't it like kind of like a pie shoot? Oh, and you pipe it in the boiling water.
Boiling water or fat, right? They fry it as well. All right, so that's a Parisian gnocchi, and usually served with a Mornay sauce. So it's a different, from Paris. That's Parisian. So now what I'm doing here is I'm mixing, incorporating. I also have some boiling water on the stove. All right. What I want to do is once I mix it all together, I want to test it. I always test it. God bless you. I want to make sure that the flavor is good, that it doesn't fall apart when it hits the water. I don't know if you've ever made a gnocchi and then went to cook it, and the thing, all you get is like potato pieces at the top of your water. That's miserable, right? You've done that. I see you shaking your head. It happens. So the way to avoid that is testing it. Right? You always want to cover yourself. You don't want to make.
Why does that happen?
Huh?
Why does that happen?
Maybe there's not enough flour. Usually there's not enough flour, so flour is going to bring it together. So you need to add a little more flour. Sometimes you need to add another yolk. It's not a perfect science. I'm trying to get all my ingredients off the board. Now I can feel the dough. It feels pretty good. Pretty good meaning it's not extremely wet and it's not extremely dry. It's a little bit tacky. It's pliable, right? Like silly putty or Play-Doh, right? That was the analogy yesterday. I know all you guys ate Play-Doh at one time. They have Play-Doh in England? Did you eat some? I used to eat some. So anyway, I'm not going to keep you here while we test it or whatever. I'm just going to show you quickly how to roll them out. You need to use a good amount of flour on here and on the sheet tray. Something else to remember, sheet trays, make sure you guys dry all the sheet trays. They're always wet. Dry them off. When you're dealing with those and you put dough onto a wet sheet tray, what do you think happens?
Wet dough.
Wet dough is going to stick. So you roll out the gnocchi. Using your fingers, you spread them out as evenly. You can make them as thick or as thin as you want. And then when you go ahead and cut the gnocchi, I'm only going to make 3 of them for us to taste. But when you go ahead and you cut them, you take your bench scraper and you push away. Alright, it's gonna come apart, right? They're not all gonna stick together. And then we're gonna put ridges in it. What the ridges do, it helps hold the sauce, as does the hole in it. You push and you roll it. Okay, you push and roll. Push and roll. Push and roll. If you don't have one of these, you can use a fork. Back of a fork works. Or you don't have to make ridges on there if you don't want to, but it makes it a little bit better eating. Any questions? Nothing? Okay, let's go. We got 45 minutes.